The phone in my hand turned to ice as my mother's words appeared on the screen. "Rachel, honey, about Christmas this year with your brother Noah bringing his new fiancée. She's a TV anchor, you know. We thought it might be best if you sat this one out. You understand, right? Love, Mom." My vision narrowed to a tunnel, the glittering Chicago skyline beyond my office windows blurring into meaningless lights. The merger documents I'd just finalized, a $240 million tech acquisition, trembled slightly between my fingers. The conference room down the hall, filled with executives waiting for my signature, suddenly felt miles away, though I could hear their muffled laughter through the walls. A sharp pain bloomed in my palm. I'd gripped my Mont Blanc pen so tightly that the cap had cut into my skin, leaving a perfect crescent-shaped indent. 15 years of building an empire, and they still saw me as someone to be hidden away. "My name is Rachel. I'm 38 and the CEO of my own global consulting firm. This is the story of how I learned that the most powerful seat isn't at someone else's table." For months, I'd sensed something brewing. The family group chat that went silent when I joined, the LinkedIn congratulations for Noah's minor promotions while my company's international expansion earned nothing but radio silence, my mother's careful redirection whenever I mentioned visiting during the holidays. "Miss Turner," my assistant Vanessa appeared in the doorway, her expression concerned. "The executive team from Mirage is ready for the call." "Thanks, Vanessa," I said, straightening my navy silk blazer. My family still assumed I thrifted my clothes, and I let them. They had no idea that the freelance analyst they barely acknowledged was now Rachel Turner, CEO of Westridge Strategies, the firm quietly steering some of the biggest business decisions across 3 continents. 15 years ago, I'd walked out of our Minnesota farmhouse after refusing a role at the family firm, Turner and Noah Holdings. "You're being selfish," my father had yelled. "You think you know better than all of us?" "Let her try. She'll come crawling back," Noah had chuckled from his leather chair, arms crossed. I never did. I moved to Chicago with nothing but a laptop and a vision. I built Westridge from scratch, working impossible hours, risking everything. Now Westridge quietly owned minority stakes in half the firms my family dealt with. There was a knock. "Miss Turner?" Vanessa entered, holding a thick folder. "The contract from Turner and Noah Holdings. It's ready for your signature." I smiled, so they needed help after all. I picked up my pen, then paused. "Actually, Vanessa, cancel it." "Cancel it?" Her eyes widened. "Merry Christmas." The irony tasted better than any holiday wine. Turner and Noah Holdings, my father's legacy firm, had spent the last 6 months scrambling for a strategic alliance with Westridge Strategies. They had no idea the company they were chasing belonged to the very daughter they'd cast aside. I'd kept tabs on my family through a network of industry contacts and occasional updates from my Aunt Margaret, who'd always stayed in touch despite the family rift. I glanced again at my mother's message. Need to maintain a certain image. My email chimed. A new message from Noah. "Rachel, Mom told me about Christmas. Don't overthink it. You know how she gets with appearances. Besides, Melody's career is very public. It's just cleaner this way. Maybe once you're established, things can go back to normal." "Once I'm established?" I echoed silently, staring at the 7-figure deal waiting on my desk. This partnership would unlock Turner and Noah's international operations, a lifeline for them. I knew from our intel how much Dad had been boasting about it. All it needed now was one thing, my signature. Vanessa returned holding an iPad. "Your father's on Zoom. He wants to confirm tomorrow's contract ceremony." I nodded and picked up the call. "Rachel Turner speaking," I said, my voice calm and clipped. I always used my mother's maiden name in business to stay hidden. I'd maintained just enough communication with my family over the years to keep appearances, obligatory birthday calls and the occasional text, never revealing my true career success. "Hey, everything set?" my father said, chipper and formal, a far cry from the man who once called my startup a waste of potential. "Just checking. Everything's on track for tomorrow, right? This deal is vital to our future." I thought of the Christmas dinners I wasn't invited to, of Noah's smug emails, of years spent as the family shadow. "Actually, Mr. Turner," I said slowly, I've been reviewing the terms. I have some concerns. Concerns? His voice cracked. But everything was approved. Things change, I replied. We should discuss it in person. Bring the whole family to the ceremony. Turner and Noah is a family company, right? Of course, he stammered. My wife, Noah, Melody, all your children, Mr. Turner, I said firmly. A pause, then softer. Well, Rachel's not really involved. All your children, I repeated. Understood, he murmured. Good, I said, and hung up. Tomorrow would be interesting. After my father ended the call, I leaned back in my chair, staring out over the glittering Chicago skyline. Tomorrow, my family would walk into Westridge headquarters, expecting to meet a powerful but nameless CEO. Instead, they'd come face to face with the daughter they had dismissed and forgotten. Vanessa stepped into the doorway once more. Shall I prepare the executive conference room for tomorrow's event? I nodded, running my fingers over the embossed contracts. Yes, and Vanessa, make sure the photographers are ready. I want the moment fully documented. That night, I stayed late planning each detail. This wasn't just a signing ceremony. It was the moment everything would change. My family was obsessed with image, but they were about to see what earned power looked like. Christmas would never look the same again. By 6 a.m., I was already in my office. The 47th floor conference room gleamed. Fresh orchids, imported tea, conference table polished to perfection, floor-to-ceiling views of the frozen lake below. Vanessa appeared, calm as always. Your family just arrived. Shall I bring them up? I checked my reflection. Gone were the soft sweaters and modest shoes they were used to. Today, I wore a charcoal Armani suit, Louis Vuitton pumps, and my grandmother's Cartier watch, her final gift to the granddaughter they all underestimated. Let them wait, I said, smoothing my jacket. I'll make an entrance. 20 minutes later, I stood in my private elevator, watching the floors pass. My phone buzzed. Another message from my mother. Rachel, where are you? Your father says this meeting is critical. Don't embarrass us. I smiled, slipped the phone away. Through the glass walls of the conference room, I could see them. Dad pacing, Mom fixing Noah's tie, Melody rehearsing her smile, and the senior board glancing at the contracts, unaware. I gave Vanessa a nod. She opened the doors. Ladies and gentlemen, she announced. Miss Rachel Turner, CEO of Westridge Strategies. The room froze. The air turned electric. As I stepped inside, my heels echoed across the marble. Then my mother's champagne flute slipped from her fingers, shattering across the polished walnut table. My father's face drained of color, rage giving way to disbelief. But it was Noah's stunned silence I'd remember most, the ever-confident air reduced to a speechless onlooker. Good morning, everyone, I said coolly, taking my seat at the head of the table. Shall we begin? This is absurd, my father stammered. You're a freelance consultant, aren't you? I lifted a sleek black folder and flipped it open. Because according to these documents, I'm the CEO of the firm you've been courting, Westridge Strategies. The senator sat up straighter, suddenly attentive. I'm sorry, what exactly is going on? Oh, I said, turning to Melody with a mock, sweet smile. I would have been properly introduced at Christmas dinner, but funny thing, I wasn't invited. Something about maintaining appearances. Rachel, sweetheart, this has all been a huge misunderstanding. My mother opened her mouth. Has it? I cut in, sharp as ice. I tapped a button on the panel. The wall screen lit up. Let's review. Here's your message, Mom, suggesting I sit Christmas out. Here's Noah implying my career was a fluke. And here. I tapped again. Is Dad pleading for this partnership, completely unaware he's been negotiating with his invisible daughter? The room fell silent. Vanessa moved between chairs, placing updated copies of the contract in front of each guest. Dad flipped through his, in panic. These aren't the same terms. These are different. I agreed, I said. I've made revisions. I've had time, years actually, to decide how I wanted this moment to go. No, he leaned forward. You can't do this. Turner and Noah has plans, expansion, investors. Like I had plans when I launched my business with no support, I said. When I was dismissed at every holiday table. That was different, Mom said. We were trying to protect you from failure. No, I stood, letting my voice cut through the air. You weren't protecting me. You were protecting your social status. I gestured toward the city skyline beyond the glass. Congratulations! Today the world learns exactly who the Turners are. I stood slowly, adjusting the cuff of my blazer. The partnership is off, I said, voice calm and final. Westridge will be acquiring Mirage directly. And as Dad likely realizes by now, that effectively blocks Turner and Noah Holdings from accessing the European market. My father collapsed into his chair, the weight of it finally settling in. Without the Westridge partnership, without the capital injection from international expansion, Turner and Noah would remain exactly what it was, a dated regional firm operating on the illusion of relevance. You can't do this, he murmured. We're family. I paused at the door, then slowly turned. Family? That's funny, because just yesterday I was told I wasn't successful enough to be family. I tilted my head, feigning reflection. I wonder, will I be enough for Christmas dinner now? And with that, I left. The silence behind me was deafening. Through the glass, I glimpsed my mother pressing a designer handkerchief to her face, Dad staring hollowly at the shredded contract, and Noah, polished, prideful Noah, sitting slack-jawed, his plans crumbling like dust. Vanessa fell into step beside me. That was intense. Are you okay? I glanced at the screen of my phone. Another blinking message from my mother. Rachel, please come to dinner. We need to fix this. I smiled faintly. Cancel my Christmas dinner, I said. I've got better plans. The fallout came fast. Voicemails, emails, pleading texts. Rachel, we're still your parents. You're ruining us. This isn't how family solves problems. Please, let's meet face to face, just us. I didn't respond. Westridge finalized the Mirage acquisition while Turner and Noah stock began a slow, humiliating slide. Business headlines weren't kind. Massive loss in M&A play. Merger collapse tanks family-owned firm. Westridge takes lead in AI supply chain. 1 week later, I sat in my office reviewing new acquisition proposals when Vanessa appeared again. Your brother's here, she said. Third time this week, but this time he's alone. I pulled up the security feed. Noah stood quietly in the lobby, but this time he wasn't wearing his tailored smile. His tie was loose. His eyes were tired. Something had changed. Send him up, I told Vanessa after a pause. Noah stepped into my office slowly, his eyes scanning the space he'd never imagined his little sister commanding. The panoramic skyline behind me, the art, the quiet power in the details. Nice office, he said, voice low. Bigger than mine at Turner and Noah, though I guess that doesn't mean much anymore. What do you want, Noah? He dropped into a visitor chair. For once, he didn't posture. Melody called off the wedding. I raised a brow. Really? The perfect political couple couldn't weather a few headlines? She said she can't be tied to a sinking ship, he said. He gave a hollow laugh. Said I no longer fit her image. The irony hung heavy. Dad's drinking again, he added. The board's starting to panic. Mom can't show her face at the club. Everything's falling apart. Because of me? I asked evenly. No, he admitted. Because we built everything on appearances, just like my relationship. I nodded once. You all treated success like it had one look, and I never fit it. I deserve that, he said quietly. You deserved a lot more, I replied, my voice hardening. Do you know what it felt like watching you all celebrate each other's wins while pretending I didn't exist? Mom threw parties for your every promotion. She never even remembered what I did. We thought you were struggling. You never asked, I cut in, standing. Not once in 10 years did any of you ask about my company, my team, my vision. You were too busy dismissing me to see I had surpassed all of you." His silence said it all. Then real tears, not performative, welled in his eyes. "I was awful to you. Can you ever forgive me?" I looked at him steadily. "Forgiveness isn't the issue, Noah. Trust is, and that's something you'll have to earn." Suddenly, the door burst open. My parents strode in, ignoring Vanessa's objections. Noah must have told them where I was after his previous visits. "Rachel!" my father snapped, though the usual thunder in his voice was gone. "This has gone far enough," he continued. "Oh," I said calmly. "And what point would that be?" "You're successful," my mother said breathlessly. "That we were wrong. We see you now, darling, so please stop punishing us." I laughed, a cold, hollow sound. "Do you think this is about revenge? About proving I made it?" I rose from my seat and walked to the window, staring out over the glittering skyline. "No, this is about consequences, about finally making it clear that your choices, your judgment, your disregard, your arrogance have weight." "We're your parents," my father said, his voice cracking. "Everything we did, it was to protect you." I turned slowly to face them. "No, everything you did was to protect your image." I gestured toward the headlines on my tablet. "Well, congrats. That image is now shattered. A crumbling company, a disgraced engagement, and a family unraveling." "What do you want from us?" Noah asked quietly. "What I wanted," I said, "was your belief when I was building Westridge, your respect when I succeeded, to be treated like family, not like a mistake." I paused, letting the words settle. "But now, I don't want anything." My mother's tears began to fall, but I didn't flinch. I'd seen those tears before, when I didn't get into the right college, when I didn't take the job at the firm, when I let the family down. "Please, Rachel, it's almost Christmas." "Ah, yes," I said. "The Christmas dinner I was too much of a disappointment to attend. Tell me, do you still need to maintain appearances, or did that vanish when your golden boy got dumped?" "Just tell us. Board seats, equity, a public apology. Name it." My father stepped forward. I shook my head. "You still don't get it. I don't want what you have. Westridge is worth 10 times what Turner and Noah ever was." "What I wanted," I said softly, "was a family that valued me. Not for what I could do, but for who I am." I pressed the intercom. "Vanessa, please escort them out and update the security list." "Rachel, please," my mother whispered. "We can fix this." "No, Mom, you don't fix a decade of dismissal with a desperate apology." As the door closed behind them, I sat in silence, city lights flickering below. Then my phone buzzed. "Heard what happened. Your grandmother would be proud. Christmas dinner at my place this year. Margaret." I smiled, a quiet warmth spreading through me as if a weight had finally lifted. Margaret, my mother's sister, had always been my staunchest supporter, even maintaining contact when the rest of the family had written me off. Sometimes family isn't defined by blood, but by those who believe in you when no one else does. The next morning, I gathered my executive team at Westridge Strategies. It was time. We were launching our boldest move yet, a complete restructuring of the consulting landscape, starting with the acquisition of 3 mid-tier firms across the Midwest. Turner and Noah Holdings wasn't on the list. Their fate was sealed. They would continue operating as a diminished regional player, a shadow of their former ambitions. The board would eventually force my father into early retirement within 6 months, according to my industry sources. As I stood before the board laying out our strategy, I thought briefly of the Christmas dinner happening in my parents' home. The glossy table, the curated wine, the hollow toasts, all of it built to preserve a crumbling illusion. Meanwhile, I was building something real. A week later, Vanessa placed a small package on my desk. Inside was my grandmother's old leather business card holder and a note from Margaret. She always said you'd outshine them all. Looks like she was right. I placed it on my desk right beside my nameplate, a quiet reminder. Success isn't defined by those who show up when you've made it, but by those who stood by you when you were still rising. My family had wanted to preserve their image. Well, they got one, just not the one they expected. And me? I had the one I earned, respected, fulfilled, and completely free. So when someone asked me later, "Do you ever miss your family?" I smiled, turned back to my desk, and said, "I have a company to run." Because that was worth more than any seat at their table. If you've ever been underestimated, cast aside, or told you weren't enough, this story is for you. I didn't build my life to prove them wrong. I built it to prove to myself that I was right to believe in the quiet fire inside me. If you felt something in my story, leave a comment. Tell me what you overcame. Or just say, "I see you," because I know how much that can mean. And if there's one thing I've learned, it's this. You don't need their seat at the table. Build your own. And one day, they'll wish they had a seat at yours. Before you go, here's a quick bonus for sticking around. If you enjoy stories about personal growth and overcoming challenges, you might like my recommendations for inspirational business memoirs. All the details are waiting in the description. Don't miss this one.